Hey guys, my name is Kirsten Jones. I'm an academic advisor at OTC, and I am joined by another advisor of mine.
Hi, I'm Kirsten, also an academic advisor.
And today we are kicking off kind of our program showcase series where we are talking to the department chairs of different programs here at OTC just to kind of allow them to shine a light on their degree programs, what students can expect with the different courses that they'll take, career outcomes, different things like that. And so today we are so graciously joined by Tiffany Ford and George Gibeau of the CIS and networking departments. And they're gonna just talk with us a little bit about their programs, kind of show off a little bit their specialties, and hopefully provide you guys with some helpful information that will help you decide what career path is best for you and everything like that. So we are going to get started. So the first thing that we're going to kind of talk about is just, this is for Tiffany, kind of explaining the differences between the degree programs within computer science, because I know that there's a few different ones and kind of gets a little confusing. So you want to tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, can I share my graphic while I talk?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. Let me, I need permissions for that.
Enable it for you. There we go. You should be good now.
Cool. All right. Let me pull up a little PDF I have here. So can we see it okay?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. So, and you're right. It does get a little confusing when there's multiple options available. So, we really try to break it down into, you either fall into one of three categories. So either you are a student coming in looking for that associate's degree and you are going to transfer into a four-year program, or you're looking for that associate's degree and you're like, I want to get to work as fast as possible. Or in that third category, you already have a degree, either associate's or bachelor's, in something else, and you're coming to retrain into the computer science skills. So you can see on my graphic on the workforce program side that computer information science, that's that degree where if you're coming in and you are wanting to get those skills and you don't have any previous degrees and you don't want to transfer, that Associate of Applied Science in CIS is going to give you that foundation that you need in the 2 years to go right into the workforce. And so whether you're looking at, computer applications, mobile apps, web development, any of those programming skills, that's the degree that you want. So we have those certificates of specialization underneath there in either programming or web development for those students that maybe are coming in with degrees in business, accounting, finance. We see a lot of those. And they say, I want to retrain into those computer skills. Those two certificates of specialization are great for those students because it's going to take what you have already learned maybe in your bachelor's degree program and just add on and make you marketable to the same employers that would be looking at those students with the Associate of Applied Science. So on the other side of that, the transfer programs, if you're that student that says, I know I'm on the bachelor's degree path, then we have a couple of different options. So we have the Associate of Science in Computer Science, and then we have the Associate of Science in Information Technology. They are fundamentally two different things in that computer science is the focus on principles and foundations of how basically computers work, right? The study of computation. So it's analysis. It is also practical use, but we are looking at things like in engineering disciplines, how computer science impacts our lives on kind of a broad research kind of way. And really computer scientists require that strong aptitude in mathematics because they are doing things like data analysis, algorithm design. They're thinking about data in different ways than maybe our programming students would be looking at data. So that's where that strong mathematic background comes in. With that Associate of Science and Information Technology, we're looking more at the business focus of computing and applications. So everybody needs software development from, I always like to say, A to Z, advertising to zoology. So this degree program, the information technology, it's going to provide that foundation for business applications. So whether you're programming in any of those different fields, thinking about how our users interact with our applications and what do they need to do to be successful. So then you're looking at economics, accounting, finance, business courses. So whether you are transferring, you have one of two paths, and when you get to that bachelor's degree level, they are two distinctly different paths at that level in two distinctly different colleges. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we do get a lot of interest for students that are wanting that video game development. And so that's that certificate of specialization in the video game development, which most jobs in that industry are going to require at least a bachelor's degree. So that's why we classify this as a transfer program. If you don't already have a bachelor's degree, then this kind of gets you set on that path while you start to think about, where am I going with my education, and am I a good fit for the various facets of this field? So we do kind of consider that to be a transfer degree program, simply because the job market below a bachelor's degree is kind of non-existent. So hopefully that helps kind of see. We have a lot of degree programs, but there is some distinct differences depending on kind of where you want that end result to be. So I'm going to stop sharing the slide, just because you can't see each other very well when you're
No, that was very helpful. And there are a lot of choices out there, and it really seems like it depends on kind of what your end goal is going to be, and also like what actually interests you initially. So that was really helpful. So thank you for that.
Welcome.
Wow. The next thing I think we're going to kind of talk about is the difference between information technology, like that program, as opposed to networking technology. So both of you can kind of touch a little bit on both of those. Whoever wants to start.
Tiffany, go ahead.
Well, really on our end, the information technology degree program, it really meets those first 2 years that a student needs before they transfer into that 4-year program. And then whether or not they are kind of wanting to focus on those networking skills that George can talk about, or maybe they are more interested in like the application development skills, they have some time to decide. Mm-hmm. So when the students with us at OTC, they're going to take some software development, they're going to take some networking, they're really going to round out those business, economics, accounting skills that I talked about, because that's what's necessary for students to enter as juniors at their target school and be admitted to that college where they're going to get that bachelor's degree. So they have some time to kind of feel out the industry and decide, hey, maybe I want this, or maybe I want that, or maybe I'm into both, which is also a common occurrence. So really the difference between the information technology and what George does, it's far more focused on his end, whereas it's just almost like a little buffet of snippets in the information technology program, just because once you get to that bachelor's degree level, then you're going to choose that focus and really dig in. So if you are really wanting those skills right now, and you aren't sure that you want a bachelor's degree, then I'll let George talk about his program, because that's probably where they need to be.
So on our side of the house, networking technology, we are really preparing students to enter the workforce. Nobody around here in a 4-year institution does what we do, and this isn't a knock against the 4-year schools, but there really is nowhere for our students to transfer to and continue at a higher level the skill sets that we're teaching them. The closest we have is a 2+2 with WGU, that they would accept our entire degree and people would enter that as a junior. It's Western Governors University, and they have bachelors in all sorts of networking technology emphasis. So our courses are the network that the applications would run on. And we are lucky enough to be associated with a number of academies. So we're a Cisco Academy, a VMware Academy, a Red Hat Academy, a Palo Alto, which is Security Appliance Academy, CompTIA. And for those people that don't know, those are either different vendors or vendor neutral certifications that our students can fit for after having taken some of our courses. So we're lucky enough that we have lots of opportunities for students to obtain an industry certification which potential employers are going to look at in lieu of experience, and it will help them get their foot in the door as an entry-level position. And for most of the jobs, and there's lots of IT jobs in this area, they don't require a four-year degree from the networking technology side. Now, that being said, once they're in a company and they want to move up the ranks, that's when they may want to come back and say, take one of Tiffany's programs, because then they're going to need the business courses, the accounting courses, maybe some of the programming courses to get into a management position, right? And that may help them then. But to get their foot in the door for entry level, we're teaching everything from cabling to server administration to network security, Linux, Cisco, just all sorts of stuff. And so they can go almost any direction they want to go. And as Tiffany mentioned, we also have students that will do both degrees. They will do both the programming side of the house and the networking technology, which just makes them that much more valuable of an employee, right, to get their foot in the door. A couple things about our program. We are looking to change the name because networking technology, most people, even our students, don't really know what that means. So we're trying to come up with something that was more descriptive. And we are also working on actually adding a cybersecurity degree to our program next fall. And we started work on that because there's a huge need for cybersecurity. And there will be overlap. It won't be a totally new degree. It'll be like part of what we currently have and then advanced security courses. So that will also teach towards certain certifications.
And would the cybersecurity degree be a 2-year program, or would it be intended to transfer?
It would be a two-year degree.
Very cool.
That one, there might be some potential for transfer because the 4-year schools near us do cybersecurity programs, and that's something we would, look at in the future, getting them or hopefully making that happen. But it's important for students to know that the CIS and networking is not a them versus us. It's not adversarial in any way. Tiffany and I work together on so many projects and so many opportunities because it benefits all our students. And so anything we can do to help each other's program or each other's students, we're always more than happy to do, because our ultimate goal is, the students to succeed in whatever their career path is, whether it's to enter the job market or go on for another degree, and what we can do to, facilitate that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I really liked the fact that you brought up, which I think we were going to touch on this a little bit later, but I'm happy you already talked about it, is the fact that students don't necessarily need a 4-year degree to be able to get into the workforce and get a great position. And I think sometimes when we meet with students and they're kind of unsure about what direction they want to go, they kind of have that mindset where, okay, I have to go on to get a bachelor's degree. And sometimes that's not always the best fit for everybody. So I think it's really reassuring and great information to know that, hey, you can do the 2-year program and make some really good money and get a really good position within the field. So I think that's awesome for students.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because a lot of students will look and say, well, there's no, IT presence in Springfield. There's not a Microsoft, a Google, an Intel. But just look around at any company that students may drive by daily and how many companies' headquarters are based in this area. They all have IT needs. Bass Pro, O'Reilly, SRC, Jack Henry, all these companies have IT departments and support personnel and branch offices, and they need programmers, they need application developers, they need, repair technicians, and. So there's a lot of opportunities in this area. For IT personnel.
Definitely. That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Sorry if I jumped ahead of our
No, you're
agenda.
great.
Great information.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so I think our next question is also for both of you. So what courses or resources could help students explore either programs within CIS or networking technology?
Well, there's so many resources. If you wanted to just dabble in what is programming, what is software development, all of the, popular free platforms, Coursera, Udemy, all of those different ones have some kind of introduction to programming. You can find tons of people on YouTube that have channels dedicated to just teaching entry-level programming. So there's just so many out there that, and I'm not even sure I could make a recommendation because there's so many good quality ones out there that I'm sure I'd leave somebody out. But really, I think even if you just did it's called Hour of Code. It started as a movement in K-12 to try to get more students kind of interested or at least understanding what programming looks like. And they have a website where you can go. It's free. You just play around at your skill level. They actually break them out by grade level. So, if you have a child at home and you want to say, hey, you're 10 years old, try this Hour of Code. It can pick an appropriate grade, age level activity for you. But even something like that just introduces the prospective student to what is programming, because we do get so many students that have kind of been driven in our direction, but they don't know what programming is. What does it look like? What does it mean? Because just sitting there at the keyboard and typing is part of it, but some of it's also, your ability to kind of look at a problem and think it through and maybe Google some steps or Google error messages and say, well, what is it trying to tell me is wrong? And kind of doing some logical deduction, almost sleuthing about what could be causing the situation that is maybe giving me this error or not giving me the expected result. And then applying that logic and trying those things and thinking about the steps that are involved. And so it's not so much just sitting here and typing, and all of us can just generate code and type all day. I mean, I'm searching, I'm looking at solutions, I'm thinking about things I've done before, I'm, posing a different question to Google about what could possibly be this problem, or I'm putting the error message in and I'm reading what other people have written. And so it's just the application of logic more than anything. So for students to kind of get a taste of that before they sit in their first intro class is great, because then they at least have an idea of what that intro class is going to entail, and maybe already have an idea whether or not they enjoy that kind of thing, because not everyone does. If you like puzzles, if you like mysteries, if you like that kind of thing, then maybe you have the spark of aptitude in there. But really, it is probably more challenging to teach someone how to think logically than it is how to teach them programming if they don't already have kind of that inquisitive, logical drive. And so, yeah, getting out there and just playing with it a little bit, any one of those free resources would be great. But if you don't, even if you have no experience with programming, I mean, we start at the very beginning, so that's not really a requisite other than, do you know you're going to like this? I mean, you don't want to get stuck in a class you don't like.
Yeah.
Sure.
We've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
George, do you have any resources or anything?
From our side, a lot of the same things Tiffany mentioned, going onto YouTube and just looking up videos on something you might be interested in, on how networks work, or how to set up a Microsoft server, how to fix a PC, something like that. I will use some of the same concepts and examples Tiffany did. So we have two types of categories on our end. The sort of, hey, I need to configure and set this up, right, and get this working. And then that's half the battle. And then if things work perfectly all the time, they wouldn't need us, but things break. So the troubleshooting aspect is where that critical thinking, logical problem solving, and all the time in class I'm asking them, how many of you like to do puzzles like Sudoku and critical thinking, these logical problem solving where the answer isn't obvious and you have to deduce it? I said, if you like doing that, then you'll be really good at troubleshooting, because that's how you have to think. And when students come here, they may know what they like, but they don't know what they don't like until they encounter it for the first time. And so back to that, our departments working well together, we will have students that will take the first couple classes and realize this isn't what they want to do, and they will transfer from Tiffany to mine or mine to Tiffany, which is fine, right? We encourage that. It's like, we don't want them to stay somewhere where they're miserable,
Right.
and they're not going to be successful, because you're not going to put any effort into something you don't enjoy doing. One thing we do is, anytime a student would want to come sit in one of our classes and just get an idea on what it is we actually do, because, you know, it looks like this on paper, but what does that actually translate to a 2.5-hour class, you know, with lecture and lab? And so we always make that offer available. You know, just get with one of the instructors and show up to a class and interact with other students, see what's going on, because a lot of ours would be hard to duplicate, to say, try this on your own, because to coding, well, okay, download a compiler or some code software online and do it. Ours is like, well, take your computer apart, put it back together, and hope you did it correctly, right? Cable your neighbor's house. So there's certain things that aren't easily reproducible outside of, you know, the environment we have with all of the equipment that we have, which is another aspect. All of our courses are very lab intensive. So lots of hands-on activities. It's not just come and listen to a lecture and that's it. It's they're doing a lot of things too. As I'm sure Tiffany's are writing code all the time. And you have people that they take our hardware class where they have to fix a computer and they realize they never want to touch hardware again. And, you know, people like, you know, I took this programming class once and I really like that. And then the other extreme, like, I took a programming class, I never want to do that again, but I like computers. And so the advising conundrum is when they come in and say, I like computers, well, that's a loaded question, is to really drill down, well, which aspect? Because just playing video games all day isn't going to prepare them for either of our programs.
Right.
And so, in our side, our joke is it's not a career, it's a lifestyle. You have to like to read. You have to like to continue to learn, because this stuff changes all the time. And it's not, you're just going to learn this thing and for the next 20 years, that's all you need to know. No, it's going to change all the time, and you just have to roll with it.
Yeah.
Sure, as program languages change, right? It's like, oh, I know BASIC. Well, good for you.
Well, you did a great job of beautifully transitioning us into our next topic, so thank you for that. It's kind of touching on what students can expect from the program, such as, you know, time commitment. You know, I know you talked about it being a lot of lab and hands-on, so kind of expectations for students on that part. And also, I know that you guys initially touched a little bit on kind of students being self-starters and kind of being inquisitive and making that self-effort to kind of learn about some of the stuff outside of the classroom. So how important is that, not only throughout the program and different things like that, but also looking, you know, when looking to make those connections to get jobs out in the field? What kind of student, like personality, different things like that, would a student kind of need to, do you think, be successful in the program and in a career afterwards?
There's a lot to unpack in that question.
Yeah.
How long do we have?
Let's start with what to expect. So at least on the CIS side, most of our classes are 3 credit hours, which means if they meet in a usual, you know, seated 2-day-a-week kind of thing, you know, then you might have a Tuesday, Thursday class. It'll meet for 1 hour and 50 minutes. And during those 2 sessions, your instructor will kind of delineate, you know, there's some lecture time, there's some lab time. We do a lot of what's called pair programming, which is an industry practice where it's 2 people, typically 1 keyboard, but right now due to distancing, we're a lot less paired than we usually are. And we do a lot of group work, because programming is not a solitary exercise in the industry. It is definitely, you know, we call it a team sport. And so you have to understand how to communicate with each other about the code that you're writing, and how to kind of talk about what's happening, whether, you know, you've broken a project into pieces and everyone's contributing, or you are kind of working together like 2 brains, 1 problem. which is what pair programming is ultimately about. So we do a lot of those kinds of things. We do offer the hybrid model, which is where your class would maybe meet one day a week, and then you have more online coursework or a kind of self-directed coursework at home. And then we do have the online classes. Our online classes, we're not a wholly online program. And part of that's because we are so lab-centric, where it is very difficult sometimes for students to have their own PC and their own internet connection to the point where they can do the labs from home. So we've kind of pulled back on some of those a little bit and tried to only offer those online classes where we know we can kind of guarantee that experience for the student and they're not going to struggle. So I know that's a point of contention for a lot of students right now. They want wholly online classes, but if they don't have the kinds of equipment that we have on campus and have been able to spend that kind of money, it's just not a completely reasonable solution. So we are kind of trying to meet in the middle where we can, but there are going to be classes throughout any of those associate degrees where you will need to come in at least one day a week. We do try to make it as flexible as we can. There is that cost associated with if you are wanting to take online classes or you're trying the hybrid model, investing in a decent computer, like a real computer, not like an iPad or a Chromebook, that will run the tools that you're going to need and that you do have a reasonable internet connection, because lacking those things then ultimately means you're not going to be able to follow along and do what you need to do in your classes. So, that's really what the environment looks like. We do a lot of collaboration. So we run, in CIS, we run a community Discord server. For people who are maybe not familiar with Discord, it's a kind of an interactive chat and video platform. And so in that community, there's various channels kind of down the left-hand side. And so you can say, hey, I need help with my intro to programming homework. Students are regularly running study groups inside of their classes that are posted there. So you can say, hey, is anyone going to be online today at 4? Talk to me about this assignment. You can hop into a study group that might be going on. We have channels in there for, students who are starting to look for internships, jobs, if there's events, maybe there's a networking event, there's a conference, something that they could attend, they can get information about those kinds of things. And then generally just try to build that community, because if you are taking a lot of online classes, it's lonely and it's difficult. And so having those people that you can reach out to, all the faculty are in there. So, not just reaching out to your course instructor, but other people you've met. Having our student organization now is kind of a virtual club where you can go in there and kind of figure out what's happening. So just trying to help keep people together, since we can't all be on campus together like we're used to being. So I think that platform has also been a big help. And any prospective students that want to come just hang out in our Discord, like we don't care, we don't discriminate. Yeah. So anyone wants to reach out and say, hey, I heard about your CIS student Discord, can I join? Yeah, hop on in, that's fine. So I know there was a lot of other things in your question, but talking about environment, things look a lot different now than they used to. But I don't know when they're going to go back to looking like what they used to, or if we even want that. I think in some cases we should keep some of these fun new distance tools and things that we have. But George has a lot more hands-on stuff to probably talk about. And then I don't know if you want to address the rest of that question. There was more in there, I'm sure, that I didn't cover.
Yeah. George, do you want to say anything?
So on our side of the house, majority of our classes are 4 credits, and they would meet 2 days a week for 2.5 hours at a time. Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday. And that is because we combine lecture and lab. We don't split it out. So it's not like there's a lecture class and a lab class, like say some of the science courses would do. And so the class, there is not a discrete delineation between lecture and lab time. It's going to be based on the class and where you are in the curriculum. So at the beginning of the semester, there might be a lot more lecture, especially intro courses where you've got to get people up to speed before you can turn them loose on something. And as they progress through the program, then it starts sort of leveling out where it's, say, half lecture, half lab. And when they get towards the end, like capstone, it's all lab. There is no lecture. And ours, is very hands-on. There's a couple classes. We are looking to dip our toes into the online water in the spring and offer 3 classes totally online, which we've never done before, and 1 class is a hybrid. But there's no way our degree would ever go 100% online because, like cabling class, we have no idea how you would do that remotely when they actually install a network in the classroom and pull all the cable and everything, how they, do that to your house and take pictures. And so within the classroom, we have a lot of specialized equipment that supports the delivery of labs, that students can do a lot of those labs outside of the classroom. We have a product called NetLab that I'm not probably overestimating. We probably have over $1 million invested in this delivery system for students to do these virtual type labs. We use them both in the classroom and they can continue those labs at home. And that way they don't have to have a whole bunch of extra equipment at home to do this. In addition, we have a lot of, so for instance, in the classroom that teaches towards the CompTIA A+, they each get their own computer, not only the sort of desk computer that they use to look up Google and things like that, but a computer that they take apart and put back together and do all these different hands-on labs on this piece of equipment that is theirs for the semester, which would be hard to duplicate at home unless they bought a spare computer specifically just to take apart and put back together. And then the labs wouldn't work because they're written for very specific pieces of hardware. And so like that curriculum has added Macintosh, Apple stuff. So we bought a whole bunch of new Apple MacBooks. So they're going to start touching Macs in there, right? So we do stay current. And that's a big thing with our degree is when you teach to industry objectives and the objective changes, we change our curriculum to stay current with that new objective. So they're not, learning the old way and they go to do a certification test and everything's changed. So having gone online last semester from midterm on made us all try to just muddle our way through the best we could. But we realized on some of the classes that there's just no way we can do this class justice to do it online. So we're doing it for those students that can usually only take evening classes, and evening classes will tend to get canceled due to low enrollment. So one of the things students need to realize, no matter which program they pick, is, when they have their plan, have backups for course scheduling, because we are held to accountability with class enrollment. And if a course doesn't have the enrollment numbers, we will be forced to cancel it. And it seems to happen to our evening classes a lot. So we're hoping by offering some online courses, those evening students will be able to continue with their degree instead of having to take a semester off or so. I think I answered half the question also.
No, that's okay. That's okay. We are kind of pressed for time. We have about 3 minutes left, so that's okay. I know there's so much to talk about, and we could talk for probably a couple of hours about all of this. But, Karison, I think we probably have time for one more question before we wrap up. So.
Yeah. And I know with every question, it's probably hard to give like a simple answer because sometimes there's just not a simple answer. But last question, something we get a lot as advisors when students are exploring programs: what kind of job can I get with this degree? What type of careers have alumni from this program pursued? So both of you, go ahead and start.
I'll let Tiffany go. Ladies first.
Well, with the Associate of Applied Science and CIS, students are really looking, again, to go right into that workforce. And so they would be looking at jobs in a broad range of software development. So whether that's working on maybe, Windows applications or mobile applications that are going to run on Android or iOS phones, maybe they're going to be doing web applications. Almost everything now seems like it runs on the web. We don't install things so much on our computers anymore. We go to sites like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and they're like applications that run in the browser. And so students might be working in a variety of different things, working with databases, taking applications and making them work together. And so they're kind of a broad definition of what, software development is, but they would be looking at a job, in something like that. Job titles vary. Sometimes it's software developer, sometimes it's software engineer, sometimes it's analyst, or something like that. But really, you look at the job descriptions and ultimately they're all very similar in the kinds of skills and things that they're looking for. We are primarily a Microsoft-based program. And so, students are going to get familiarity with Microsoft's C# programming language. Not that that's exclusively what we teach, but certification-wise, those are the certifications that students would be looking to get in, programming and database and things like that as they move through that associate's degree as well. So, we always think the skills are transferable. So if they're looking at those jobs and they're like, oh, it says I need something else, then, that's something that if you learn one, you can learn the next. It's what you've learned foundationally transfers. So yeah, job skill wise, once you transfer to that bachelor's degree, kind of depends on which one of those focuses that you choose. But computer science typically goes for more engineering, high level analyst, might be doing some kind of data science position, even working on things like artificial intelligence types projects, or, really just kind of depends on the organization that they're working in. But again, they're going to be focused more on those mathematical, data-focused, engineering-focused type problems. Whereas at the bachelor's degree level for the information technology, they're focused more on business-based programs. So they might be in a hospital, they might be in a bank, they might be in insurance, really thinking about how does the user need to use this application, and then what does the data need to do, and following laws and compliance for, like industry regulations and things like that.
And so on the networking side, since our students are being trained to enter the workforce, there are a number of different sort of keywords they would look for when looking for a job. Everything from cabling, low voltage cabling, which could include home alarm systems, smart home technology, things like that. Help desk, working somewhere as a support technician or help desk technician, actually answering the phone and doing phone support. Repair technician, working in a small repair shop or any company that actually does their own repair. Network hardware, routers and switches, server configuration and administration, Linux server administrator, Microsoft server administrator, entry-level cybersecurity. Again, they are entry-level positions. They're not going to be jetting around the world and hacking into the Pentagon with 3 keystrokes. They'll probably be looking at log files, but it is cybersecurity needs. Virtualization, that's a big thing in IT these days, where instead of buying 15 servers at $30,000 a piece, you buy a couple of high-powered ones and you virtualize everything. I think for our lab delivery system, we have about 15 servers that probably host 3,000 virtual machines on them. And so that's a good concept. That's a cloud computing. And so people looking for those entry-level positions should keep all their options open. And the good thing about our program is they get exposure to a lot of different sort of fields, if you will. And they realize, well, maybe I want to go into cybersecurity, which is great, but you still have to have all that foundational knowledge to know how data moves through a network. And so they would get that and still prepare them for that entry-level position. Our student makeup for our program, we have a lot of non-traditional students. We have everything from Career Center and middle college, so students can come to us as a junior, senior in high school and do their whole degree here. In fact, Tiffany's son came through our program. That's how great we are.
And now he's in information technology.
Yeah.
Because he discovered that
he's working for IT. I literally, one of my former students is now the director of network hardware here at OTC.
Wow.
I was talking to Desmond one day, and he said he really liked cabling, so I just marched him upstairs and said, Shauna, Desmond, Shauna. Shauna Desmond's interested in cabling, and I left, and now he's working here part-time, really likes it.
That's
So
awesome.
it's really good to see students find their place, if you will. We have a lot of non-traditional students, students that have, they're older, they already have another degree, they have families, their jobs went away, they got laid off, they want to change degrees. One of my current success stories is a gentleman who used to work for Polar Manufacturing in town, and that was a welding fabrication company. That company was bought out. Those jobs went out of the country. He came through our program on the TRADE Act financial aid and did his 2-year degree, and now has a great job in cybersecurity at Jack Henry, right? He went from being a welder to cybersecurity in little 2+ years. We do get some international students in our program. While OTC itself does not have an international program as far as sponsoring students on student visas, we do get a lot of international students that will have relatives in the area and come here for their degree. And probably the best advice there is make sure English skills are at a high level, because there's a lot of technical terminology, and it's not that they're any less qualified than our students, but if they can't understand what they're being taught, then they're not going to do well. Yeah. And we've had a lot be very successful and go on either 4-year degrees or great jobs, and others struggle because of the language barrier. So that'd probably be the only criteria, because all of our courses, the entry into our program is we assume you'd know a computer if you saw it. If English is not your primary language, I would say make sure your English skills are honed, because all of our courses are delivered in English, and it can be a challenge for people that's not their primary language.
Sure.
We also do a lot with DSS and all sorts of accommodations, right? Somebody is not automatically disqualified from any of our courses. We've had students in wheelchairs, we've had blind students, deaf students, and we will just do whatever we can, and our DSS office is amazing. They will just make any accommodation that's reasonable and they can to help students be successful. And we've had a lot of success in our programs that students that had various disabilities, and we can still find ways to get them through the program, and and they find jobs. So
that's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. I know we barely have scratched the surface on all of the details that we could talk about, but we really appreciate you guys taking the time to chat with us a little bit and share all this helpful information to students. Now, if a student, is seeing this and wants to reach out to you guys for more information, or are interested in pursuing one of your programs, do you mind sharing the best way for them to get into contact with you guys?
So yeah, email is easy, fordt@otc.edu. But for students that are on Discord, since I mentioned the Discord server, it's RHYSMA #6000.
Okay, thank you.
With a silent Q.
Hit my gamer tag, it'll be great. DMs are open.
So for me, if students would, I'm not yelling. Oh, there I go. So for me, if students would, like to sit in on a class, would like a tour, would like additional information, email is probably the best way. And it's GIB as in Bill, EAUG. So Gibeau @otc.edu.
Perfect. Awesome.
When you edit this, maybe you can put our emails at the bottom or something.
Yeah, we can put it in the description at the bottom.
Yeah, that'd be great.
In the description below.
Yes, definitely.
And so,
well, thank you guys. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say that we're always happy to, give tours and meet with students. They've had them come through with their families and friends and whatever. Just stop on by. We can actually make a day of it and go through both programs and see.
Nice.
Compare them for yourself.
Yeah.
That would be great. Well, thank you guys so much. It's been fun chatting with you. And we might do this again sometime. So thank you so much. Yeah, part 2. Maybe.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yes. Thank you guys. And we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you.